Act. And I don't think that we should give up and say that it's a fait accompli, that it's impossible. I think we have a unique opportunity, especially if we can get labor support with some very strong labor leaders in Sacramento to help move the legislation. We've got people willing to carry it, and we've got a strategy about local control that we think might cross the aisle. And so I think that our elected officials are just waiting to see if the community is behind it and if this is something that we want to push them to support and to really create the grassroots movement to move it forward. And so we could move this as early as January. It's just if everybody's behind it or not. So, that's one thing for us to think about as an outcome from today's meeting.
Absolutely, it's very important because the argument and the reason that we have a unique opportunity here and now to take on some of these issues is we have this Glen Bay area. We have the state legislature saying to us, you have to do this, and at the same time taking away the tools we need to protect existing communities. So you go to the state legislature and say, okay, we're down with this. You want us to do SB 375, we'll do it, but give us back rent controls in vacant apartments. Get rid of the Ellis Act. Give us the right to do commercial rent control if we want to in our communities. And fine, then we can do this. So there is that opportunity, and I know that there are people talking about it, and that will be a tough statewide battle, but it's important. Yeah, Mark.
Hey. Thank you. Yeah, Mike Casey really gets it right here. We have failed as a movement, as progressives, as nonprofits, and as folks to connect with our communities. And that's why we're not seeing traction. That's why we've lost elections, we've lost government. Right? It was 10 years ago we were winning elections. We didn't make asks, we made demands, and we got them. We're not doing that right now, and there are reasons why we have to have an introspective process to figure out how we failed and what the path is to success. We also tried participatory planning in the Western Soma, and as we move forward with some pretty progressive anti-displacement tools, the nonprofits and people getting city money were called upon, their chains were yanked, and those things were taken out of the plan. In the neoliberal context, nonprofits will not get funded to contest the imperatives of capital via independent community organizing. That's not going to happen. So we have to figure out new ways to do it that are independent, on the cheap, and actual real grassroots movements that don't presuppose politics based on demographics. Everyone's welcome.
All right, thanks, Mark.
Wait. Sorry.
All right, one more minute.
I've only spoken for not even a minute. The TA is doing the 25-year transportation plan. They are $3 billion out of a $4 billion for doing the existing transportation infrastructure and pipeline. Okay? There's $10 billion for the greenhouse gases upon which all this is supposed to be predicated in all these plans, yet there's no money for that $10 billion. On Eastern neighborhoods, right? The nonprofits said they had our back. We got played on Eastern neighborhoods and Market Octavia, and the Mission District is now a free fire zone for luxury condos. We have to develop new models for community organizing that are not so narrowly focused and tailored and leverage the resources of everyone in this room and in this city to take the city away from the neoliberal imperative. That's got to happen. It's going to be working with us.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah.
Can I have the mic?
Who's got the mic? Fernando's bringing the mic. Thank you.
My name is David Seitz, members of San Francisco tomorrow, and board of directors of Freedom West Homes, which is only about 4 blocks away from here, okay? Today we're talking about community actions. I'm coming over here to learn as well as to ask the help of everybody. Not 1 year from now, not 4 months from now, but right now, okay? Because our community needs action right now. Because at this point, HUD is putting our community of 4 blocks, okay? Of over 1,000 people in foreclosure. Okay? And right now, the city mayor's office is so-called hiring somebody, I think, who has it. They all have a developer's background. They're going to come over here, come to our community, so that I pretty much know what the position will be. Okay? It's very obvious. Okay? Because right now, they want us to come up with a plan within a month. Otherwise, they're going to come down here for foreclosure. Okay? Foreclosure means that ours right now is a co-op. And they're going to push us into rental, and they're going to bring a developer partners come here and control everything what we're doing. So, if any time of organizing is right now. Okay? I already organized my community for the past 3 years, but right now we need help from everyone in the city, from labor, from all the chemistry and come over. Okay?
Thanks.
We don't know what to do.
Why don't you, do you have a website or a contact information you can give people so they can get in touch with you if they want to help?
Yes, definitely, okay, because I myself have a blog already, okay, and
Why don't you tell people where they can, how they can plug in?
Announce the blog.
What's the name of your blog?
Freedom West Day. My name's David. Freedom West is the place. Freedom West Day at blogspot.com. Okay?
Great. Thank you very much for bringing that up. I appreciate it. Something I want to look at.
Because right now our position is made not in San Francisco, but from someplace far away in LA, from an enforcement office.
Yep. Thanks so much. We have time for a couple more questions. Yeah, right here.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Young. I'm a member of Local 2. Thank you, Mike. I didn't expect to see you. I live in right down the street of Dolores Street. I am living through the diaspora of what is happening in the Mission. All my neighbors are gone. My community stores are gone. All of these things have happened in the course of the last 3 or 4 years. And I have an idea about below market rate housing because I'm always afraid that I'm going to be the next one to be evicted. At the moment, I am a protected tenant, but that may not last for very long. So of course I've got my eyes open, I apply, I look here, that. All of the below market rate housing that I have seen is disgusting. If it's not good for people to live, they don't have decent kitchens where you can cook, you're crammed into plastified spaces, there's not enough room for a family. So I say, why does the city have to get involved in below market rate housing in that context? Why not buy the buildings and let the people stay in the buildings and have city workers, union workers, help restructure the buildings? Why do we have to build these developments? What is the point besides the fact that so many, even nonprofit organizations, I mean, I'm sure the people on their boards make a lot more money than the people who I work with and myself. Why can't we stay in our homes? Why can't we have what they call liquid limited equity solution, whereby instead of building all of these buildings, help us buy our units. I can afford $100,000. That's it. I can't afford a below market rate house of $399,000. I never will be able to afford anything like that. So I say, why can't we take the conversation in a different direction? Thanks.
All right, one more question. One more person. Who's? Okay. Yeah, all the way in the back.
Hi, everybody. I wanted to talk to Maria's issue of, hi Maria, around statewide organizing. I think that's a really important issue. Just recently, like in the last 2 weeks, there was a bill up at the state legislature to be able to even provide additional protections or additional solutions for people losing their deposit. Something so simple as getting your deposit back.
Right.
It died.
They sold us out.
Basically, people who have run on the platform of helping working class people voted against it.
Yes. Right.
And so in terms of where we are at the state level, it's pretty bad. I mean, if we think that here it's difficult, try organizing in Merced. Try organizing in Fresno. Places where the realtors are on the city council, So in terms of what we're doing at the state level, it's really important to recognize that there are efforts actually to work at the state level. For example, Gan, who's on the panel, and I are both on the, along with Ted Gullickson and other people, are on the Board of Tenants Together, which is a statewide tenant rights organization that we're actually trying to figure out solutions at a statewide level. We're going to Merced, we're going to Fresno, and talking to people there about what kind of rights they need to be able to stay in their homes. And it's a really tough fight. If we think we have it tough here, it is so many times tougher in a lot of these communities. So just to kind of put a push out that it's good that we're talking about this, but it's here, and we also need to get out of ourselves and go to these communities and talk to people that are actually have so many less protections than we do. So along with that, so just a small plug, that tomorrow, actually Tenants Together are celebrating 5 years of being fighting for state rights. We're going to be at 111 Minna, so if you guys want to come out, celebrate the tenant-friendly condo conversion victory we just had, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Wrapping this up for us, Todd, you have a question?
What district is this?
We're in District 8.
Eight. thanks to Supervisor Moore. Where are all the rest of the citizens?
Well, I know, where's District 8 Supervisor? They were all invited. Trust me.
Leader's busy in District 8, getting rid of secrets.
Trust me, they were all invited. I know that Supervisor Campos had a conflict. There's another event that he had to go to tonight. And I know that Supervisor Marr is here. The others were all invited, and we can see committed. Thank you, Supervisor. Wrapping this up, I'm going to introduce Rachel Brahinsky. We'll get it over to Peter for a second, and then I'm going to introduce Rachel Brahinsky. That would be Dr. Rachel Brahinsky, recently PhD at who is now an urban studies professor at the University of San Francisco and is a former Bay Guardian intern, former Bay Guardian reporter, longtime writer on urban affairs for the Guardian, who is now Dr. Brahinsky. She'll be following us to wrap it up. And after that, I'm going to just say a couple words about how we can continue this conversation. Go ahead, Peter.
So, folks, I just want to highlight a few things that I heard today, and I will be quick. But first of all, and Rachel can punctuate this, we had about 135 people come tonight. That's a good turnout. Thank you all very much. Rachel, I think, is going to talk about some solutions, some action you can get involved in. It's also in your program. But you know, a lot of the discussion tonight to me just raises, in many respects, for Plan Bay Area, the same questions that we've been grappling with and we grapple with every day in our work. Who gets to live here and who gets to work here? Right? That's the question. Plan Bay Area doesn't in and of itself raise new questions. It just raises the heat by making more assumptions about growth in our city, and we're still left with the question of how do we solve for that in an equitable way that creates justice on the ground and doesn't abstract the unintended consequences. Some highlights for the panelists. Everybody was fantastic. Gan kicks it off with, is this our vision, right? It's a regional vision, it's an agency vision, it's a kind of a technocrat vision, but is it our vision from a community standpoint? There are a series of maps on the wall that I'd like to suggest you all peek at, but as Gen pointed out, you know, we have this, I call it a train wreck. You know, you look at one map that is the priority development areas. Where, from a kind of a planning standpoint, should most of the growth go? Where should we direct growth from a smart growth standpoint? Map number 2 is, where currently do we have vulnerable communities, low-income communities of color, working-class communities that are at a high risk of displacement? And then you put map 1 on top of map 2, and voila, you essentially have our smart growth regional future is our working-class and low-income communities of today. That's a problem, and it's not necessarily one that we are making hyperbole about. It's just the way that the development plans kind of put this question to us to solve. What I heard, just interesting, you know, Cindy put out not just growth for growth's sake. We really have to ask the question about who's benefiting from this and how do we make growth something that creates real community benefit, not just growth because it's a good thing to do. We're not just going to sort of take one for the team at a regional level and have folks' lives impacted as a consequence. I think Maria raised a similar point in concluding what kind of development are we prioritizing in our neighborhoods. It's not just development, but what kind of development and who gets it and what do we get out of it. Bob, I really like, and I know you're involved in the regional work, you know, the plans suffer in many ways, but they also suffer from a top-down perspective rather than the bottom-up one. How do we grow a movement that actually shapes these visions for the region that's based in people's lives, not necessarily just in kind of planners' worlds. And then I think Mike, you know, I just really very much and maybe mostly compelled by Mike's statements because I come out of the housing world, but the workforce, the labor perspective, you know, who's getting the jobs and are those jobs and people able to live in San Francisco? You know, that's a math question. Are the wages equal to the cost of housing? But you put it into this perspective of saying the changing demographic of San Francisco affect the politics of protest. That's right on. I mean, you know, that's what's made San Francisco what it is. It's because people have struggled for this place to be a great place, whether it's in the labor movement or housing or anything else. And if you don't have people here to struggle, you know, this could be any city. So the changing demographics matter a lot to the work we do if we want to be an activist city, and we still are. real quickly, Council of Community Housing Organizations, CCHO, as you may know us, we've commented on Plan Bay Area. We wrote our official comments to the record. This is very basic stuff. San Francisco is intended to take 25% of all the housing growth of the so-called top 15 cities. That's a tremendous amount of new housing units. Number two, the plan only plans for growth. It does housing. It doesn't tell you how it's paid for. So simply planning for housing doesn't get you housing. We know that. Number three, if we're to extrapolate that San Francisco share of the regional growth, we would need over a 30-year period about 35,000 units of affordable housing. And I'm saying affordable here is below 80% of the AMI. Okay, so you can take your different cuts. 35,000 units. That is on an average basis 1,100 units of affordable housing that we would produce. We do maybe 400 to 500 a year. So that's talking more than double.
And there's no money for that.
And there's no money for that.
And no tools to get you money.
Yeah, and no tools to get new money.
Right.
Anyway,
And I just want to, this is again, not to exaggerate, it's just the truth. We build a certain amount. We got $1.3 billion in Prop C for 30 years. As Gan aptly pointed out, if you do some back of the envelope math, we're still about $5 billion short. Now, I think that, we would actually say, great, we'll accept this growth projection if you find $5 billion for us, but until then, we have a shortfall. Which leads to, I think, the real punchline here. The chart up on the wall shows you that this current proposed plan would increase the level of risk of displacement from the existing conditions of 21% to 36%. So this is the, if you will, collateral damage of smart growth. Therefore, we concluded, and this was printed in Tim's article, so I'll read it again, it would be irresponsible to advance a plan that purports to improve the region's communities as population grows, while simultaneously that plan presents greater risk and uncertainty for many vulnerable communities that already experience today under current real estate development pressure, right? I mean, that's basically not acceptable. Now, Bob pointed out the 6 Wins for Equity has the environment, equity, and jobs alternative, which actually does substantially better as an outcome, but it does still need more. And it's a starting point as a platform that our organization has been involved in. And it's, I think, a bridge to Rachel, if she wants to conclude. I think we should get involved in pushing back on this plan. It's easy to just discount it, and we've done a good critique. We also need to get involved in that movement, as Bob pointed out, and take our ideas and our action and push back and make it better or have some kind of an alternative to it. Those are my concluding remarks.
Rachel.
That was very embarrassing, Tim. I'm on cleanup. And you have to have a PhD to be on cleanup. So I want to take this out. A lot has been said tonight, and I don't want to add new facts and figures. But I just want to say this is an amazing group of people. You're engaged and you're active, and it's totally essential. And I think, I want to echo a lot of things that people here said. That what Peter said about San Francisco. San Francisco is the place that it is because people have kept fighting. And yes, the Western Addition was torn apart in the 1960s, and that's the story that always comes up when people talk about displacement. But then it was, bit by bit, partly put back together. And I think it's a piece of the story that people forget, to remind ourselves that community pressure has been essential over time. Over and over and over. The affordable housing now, so I'm not claiming that the Western Addition is anything like what it was. So don't quote me on that. I saw a few frowns. But the point is that any affordable housing that exists in the Western Addition, that exists south of Market, that exists in the Mission, that exists on Bayview Hill, Point Hill, is there because of community pressure, because people got organized and found points of unity and kept trying and trying and trying. And so I'm really excited to see how many people came here tonight to talk about this pretty obscure, kind of distant plan that I think forces us to do something that we must do, which is think regionally. And I think that it's essential, partly because, as people have said here today, that, I live in Oakland now. I was kind of displaced out of the city. It wasn't the worst story of the many stories that you've heard and that you've seen happening all around you, but that, San Francisco is far beyond the borders of San Francisco, and we have to remember that. In some ways, we're just sort of a suburb of Silicon Valley, right? So we have to think of ourselves as both smaller than we are and bigger than we are. And I think that there have been a lot of really important points made tonight. I hope, and I think we all hope, all of us who were organizing this, that people will leave here inspired to act even more. A lot of people in this room are very involved activists and have been for many, many years. And so those of you who haven't been, I hope you'll leave your email out front so that you can get emails from the organization that put this together. And there are a bunch of points of intervention, ways that you can be involved coming up. They're in the flyer that some of you got. If you leave your email out front, then you'll get it in your email. And the first place that you can participate is this Friday at 9:30 in the morning. Someone was talking about how these meetings are only at night. This is a morning meeting for those of you who can make it. ABAG MTC hearing, it's a really important hearing. And then on the 20th, there's another one. There's an MTC meeting on July 10th and on, and so it's all in here, and we can tell you about those dates. The other thing is that one of the organizations that put this together tonight is this new think tank called UrbanIDEA, which is a group of people who are trying to produce new knowledge and new information about the city to help solidify the conversation around how to make change in San Francisco. How, if there's going to be growth, how you can have growth without displacing people. I think that displacement should be a planning metric. If you're going to come up with a plan like Plan Bay Area and you can see that there's displacement, you can map it, you can show us where it's going to be, well, that needs to not just be part of the kind of, you look in the future, you see that coming, so that means you don't do that development and you can figure out how to do it differently. That's what we need to work towards. That's a long-term plan, but in the short term, there are all these ways that you can get involved. There's also a regional working group of Choo-Choo, and I think, again, if you put your name on the table out front, that you'll get information about it. And am I missing other moments where people can get involved? I think that's a lot of it. And Tim, do you have any closing words?
Yeah, thank you, Rachel. This is a start. Tonight is a start. Tonight we've got 135 people in the room, and we've got a panel who's talking about this. This is, as one of the panelists said, or somebody said from the audience, this is like the biggest thing that nobody knows about. Well, we know about it now, and there's a lot of us here, and we've got to keep this going. So please, give us your contact information. We are going to continue to hold meetings like this. We're going to continue to look at alternatives, discussions, how we can organize around this. The San Francisco Bay Guardian has a politics blog at sfbg.com where we're going to continue this discussion. There's always a few crazy trolls, just ignore them. Where we can continue this discussion and talk about strategies and what we can do next. This is an ongoing process. I really appreciate everybody being here tonight. Thank you so much for coming, and thanks to all of our panelists for coming and spending the weekend here. Don't leave tonight thinking this is the end. This is just the beginning. Thanks, folks.